What is up, people? First of all, Happy New Year to all my lovely people out there. I hope this year turns out to be amazing for all of you. So, in this video, we are going to learn different forms of infinitives. Yes, they have different forms. Learning what is an infinitive is not done, that's not gonna help you. You need to know different forms of infinitives and how do we use them, right? So that's exactly what we are going to do in this lesson. We are going to learn different forms of infinitives and how do we use them. I'm excited. I know you guys are too. Let's do it. Guys, we all know that an infinitive is nothing but a base form of a verb that does not work as a verb in a sentence. We all know that, right? Now, let us understand different forms of infinitives. So in English, we have two forms of infinitives. That is active form and passive form. Under active form, we have four different forms of infinitives. Number one, simple indefinite infinitives. Number two, continuous infinitives. Number three, perfect infinitives. And number four, perfect continuous infinitives. Under passive form, we have only two types of infinitives, only two forms of infinitives. That are simple infinitives and perfect infinitives. Let us understand all these forms of infinitives. Why do we use simple indefinite infinitives? Simple. This is the most used form of infinitives we have. Uh, we use simple indefinite infinitive when we do not know the time of the action, when the time of the action is literally indefinite. Now guys, please understand, we're referring to an action, an infinitive, that's not working as a verb in a sentence. These all forms of infinitives are gonna work as a noun in a sentence. Alright? And what is the structure of a simple indefinite infinitive? To plus first form of the verb. The second type under active infinitives is continuous infinitives. Now, when we want to refer to an action that's happening right now, that's happening at the moment you're speaking, we use continuous infinitives. Please understand, when we're referring to an action here, an infinitive, it's not working as a verb, right? And how do we represent it? How do we use it? To plus be plus first form of the verb followed by ing. Alright, that's how we represent it. Looking at the next infinitive, next form of infinitives under active infinitives is perfect infinitives. When do we use perfect infinitives? When we want to refer to an action that's working as a noun that has already happened, that has already taken place, we are going to use a perfect infinitive. And how do we represent it? To plus have plus third form of the verb. To plus have plus third form of the verb, or we also call it past participle. Alright, the next form of infinitive under active form is perfect continuous infinitive. When do we use it? When we want to refer to an action that has been happening for a while, that has been happening, that started in the past and still is happening in the present, we use a perfect continuous infinitive. And how do we represent it? To plus have been plus first form of the verb followed by ing. To plus have been plus first form of the verb followed by ing. To have been doing, to have been studying, to have been dancing. Alright? We have only two forms under passive forms of infinitives. That are simple indefinite infinitives or simple infinitives and perfect infinitives. How do we represent a simple infinitive in passive form? To plus be plus third form of the verb. To be done, to be played, to be danced, right? And the second is perfect infinitives. And how do we represent it? To plus have been plus third form of the verb or past participle. To have been played, to have been danced, to have been studied, right? Now, let's look at all these different forms of infinitives one by one. We're going to start with a simple infinitive or simple indefinite infinitive. Guys, simple present infinitive is the most used form of infinitives we have in English. Let's look at the active form first. I want to purchase a car. I want what? You always want something or somebody, a noun basically, or a pronoun. I want what? I want an action here. What is that? To purchase. I want to purchase a car. So here we have a simple present infinitive in active form. I want what? to purchase a car. The subject is referring to the action to purchase. Please understand, nobody's purchasing anything here. To purchase is not working as a verb here. It's working as a noun. I want what? To purchase. What? A car. Let's look at the next example. You seem to enjoy the show. You seem to enjoy the show. You seem what? To enjoy the show. So, to enjoy is the simple present infinitive here in active form. You seem to enjoy the show. You seem what? To enjoy. In other words, it means it looks like you enjoy the show. Alright? Let's look at the next example. I have decided to marry her. I have decided what? An action. What is that? To marry her. I have decided to marry her. So to marry is the simple present infinitive here. Guys, one thing to note here. You simply cannot use all different forms of infinitives with any verb. Most of the verbs in English do not allow you to use all different forms of infinitives. Why? Let me show you why. So can I say I have decided to be marrying her? Can I say that? No, I can't. So this would not be the right use of infinitive here, because I cannot decide an action and be doing that at the same time. Can I decide an action and be doing that action at the same time? No, I cannot. So decide is a verb that does not allow you to use a present continuous form of infinitive, right? Because you're gonna decide an action first, then gonna do it, right? Similarly, I cannot say I have decided to have married, because how can I decide an action that has been already done, that has been already performed? If you decide an action, if you decide to do something, that to an action, you're gonna do it later on, right? If I decide to do something, I'm gonna decide it first, then gonna do it, right? So I cannot decide an action that has already happened. Similarly, you cannot say I have decided to have been marrying her, right? That's incorrect. Because if you decide an action, you're gonna do it later on. How can you decide an action that has been happening for a while? That sounds stupid, right? So guys, please understand, you are going to use all these different forms of infinitives according to the verb. All right, let's look at the passive form. I want to be loved. I want what? To be loved. I am not performing this infinitive here, love. I'm not doing that to an action. What is that? To be loved. I want to be loved by somebody. All right, it's in a passive structure. It's in a passive form. I want an action that is happening by somebody else. I want to be loved. So to be loved is my simple infinitive in passive form. Let's look at the next example. She seems to be hurt. She seems what? To be hurt. To be hurt by somebody else. To be hurt is the infinitive here. Simple infinitive in passive form. Alright, so that's how we use a simple present infinitive, or you can also call it simple infinitive, both in active and passive voice. Now let us look at simple continuous infinitives. And why do we use simple continuous infinitives? When we want to refer to an action that's working as a noun, that's happening at the same time you're doing something, we use simple continuous infinitives. Let's look at the active form first. He seems to be crying. He seems to be crying. He seems what? To be crying. So to be crying is the infinitive here. In other words, it means it looks like he is crying. He seems what? To be crying. He seems to be doing something. What is that? To be crying. Let's look at the next example. The teacher is pretending to be teaching. The teacher is pretending to be teaching. The teacher is pretending what? The teacher is pretending an action that she's doing. The teacher is pretending to be teaching. So to be teaching is our infinitive, simple continuous infinitive in active form. She is pretending an action that's happening right now. She's pretending that she is teaching right now. We are using a simple continuous infinitive because the verb allows us to use it, right? You can pretend an action and be doing that at the same time. You can do that. But you cannot say, I want to be purchasing a car, because you're going to want first, then going to do something, right? So the usage of any forms of infinitive is going to be decided by the verb itself. If it allows you to use it, you can use it. If it does not, you should not use it. All right. And when we talk about passive form under simple continuous infinitives, we simply do not have any passive form. So now we're going to look at perfect infinitives. And why do we use perfect infinitives? We use perfect infinitives when we want to refer to an action that has already happened. Please understand, refer to an action that's not working as a verb, that's working as a noun. It's very important to understand this. So we'll take some examples of active forms first of all. He admitted to have done the crime. He admitted what? To have done the crime. Now please understand, if you admit an action, if you admit something that to an action, that action must have already happened, right? How can you admit something that to an action that hasn't happened? You cannot admit something that hasn't happened, right? Just think about it. So this verb admit allows us to use perfect infinitive, all right? He admitted an action. What is that? To have done the crime. He admitted what? To have done the crime. So he's already done the crime. Now he's admitting that, all right? So I cannot say he admitted to do the crime because he has already done the crime, right? So I'm gonna use the right form of infinitive here. That is perfect infinitive. Guys, please understand, it's very important to use the right form of infinitive with the right verb. So you guys have to understand if the verb allows you to use the infinitive that you want to use, the form that you want to use, right? Let's look at the next example. I denied to have taken any cash from her. I denied what? To have taken any cash from her. What is the infinitive here? Very simple. To have taken. Now guys, please understand that deny is a type of a verb that allows you to use perfect infinitives, right? If you deny something, you must have already done that or not have done that, right? So the action that you're denying must have already taken place. I denied an action. What is that? To have taken any cash from her. So that must have already taken place. Now let us take some examples of passive form. Example number 1. Max is pretending to have been kissed. Max is pretending what? To have been kissed. So to have been kissed is our infinitive, perfect infinitive in passive form. Why? Because somebody else is doing this action. Max is not doing this action. Somebody else is doing it. Max is receiving this action. Max is pretending to have been kissed by somebody, right? Let's look at the next example. The students are claiming to have been beaten. The students are claiming what? You always claim something, right? What are they claiming here? They are claiming to have been beaten. So to have been beaten is a perfect infinitive in passive form because somebody else has performed this action on them. The students are claiming to have been beaten by the police, by their parents or something like that, right? So they're not doing this action. Somebody else has done this action on them. The students are claiming to have beaten. Alright guys, now let us look at the last form of infinitive, that is perfect continuous infinitives. And guys, we do not have any passive form of this infinitive, so let us take some examples of perfect continuous infinitives in active form. Example number 1. He seems to have been living with her for some time. He seems what? To have been living. He seems an action that's been happening for some time. He seems to have been living with her for some time. So to have been living is our perfect continuous infinitive. He seems an action and that action has been happening for some time. So he seems what? To have been living with her for some time. Let's look at the next example. You pretend to have been studying. You pretend to have been studying. You always pretend something, right? You can pretend an action. Yes, we are pretending an action. And we are pretending an action that has been happening for some time. So you pretend what? To have been studying. Alright. Now please understand this verb pretend allows us to use a perfect continuous infinitive. So guys, I hope you have understood all these different forms of infinitives, how these forms are different from one another and how do we use them, right? I hope you've understood everything. Now I have a task for you. On your screen are some examples with options. What you have to do is you have to select the right option and write in the comment section below. If you guys are facing any problem, if you still haven't understood anything, do let me know. And so I hope you've liked the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you very soon with a new topic. Till then, keep learning, have fun. I am out.